Academy online course, and today we're going to take a look at the Microsoft Hybrid Cloud, and we're going to take a quick introduction into that cloud and some of the things that you need to consider when you're thinking about using clouds with your environment today. My name is Matt Hester. I'm a Senior IT Pro Evangelist with Microsoft. You can reach me on my blog at aka.ms/Matt Hester. So what are we going to look at in this particular presentation? We're going to talk about what does it mean to be a hybrid cloud environment? And why is it important? And why now do we look at this? And what are some of the components that are a part of the hybrid cloud? And chances are, folks, you probably already have some of these components deployed in your environments today. And then we'll end with a brief demonstration of some of the great things that we can do inside the actual cloud technologies. So what do we think about? What is a hybrid cloud? Well, really, the cloud represents a huge paradigm shift for us in IT. And really, it's not that big of a difference when you think about it, but it really changes our mindset. I know we're used to having all those servers on premise. We're used to be able to see the lights as they blink. We're used to be able to plug things in and out of our networks, repair hard drives, what they have, and we have all that control. But really, cloud computing has not only changed how we think about IT, it's also gotten us out of that mindset that maybe my servers for a particular type of workload don't need to be on premise. Now, we're not saying that everything has to be moved to the cloud, and that's why we call it a hybrid cloud. It's where you kind of, in a sense, have changed your IT, where you kind of have a foot on both sides, and you have the best of both worlds, where you have your on-premise data center and you can leverage resources in the cloud, and maybe leverage resources like storage or networking components or for disaster recovery. Imagine, what if you could tell your closest IT friend, hey, I have a branch data center that's 400,000 square foot facility and over 100,000 physical servers. Well, essentially, when you use Windows Azure, that's just one of our many data centers that we have around the world. And we have several mega data centers around the world to help service those needs and really scalable workloads. And we've been doing this business for a while, and I know Brad Anderson on his blogs has really talked a lot about the size and the maturity that we have inside of our data centers. But really, a hybrid cloud essentially is an ability for you to bridge from your on-premise data center to a cloud data center and have them connected and have that full functionality. One of the great things when you look at these types of technologies, it really enables you to help solve problems. I mean, I always joke with the customers that I talk to is, what if you were mentioned on a popular TV show like Oprah, for example? Could your front-end web servers handle the possible incoming traffic that you would receive from that just generation of being mentioned on somebody's popularity? And we joke with that, but that's a real possibility. Could you handle that type of traffic? Hybrid clouds can help you kind of get the best of both worlds. And when you look at some of the things, when we think about it from a Microsoft approach, we really want consistency across our clouds. Guess what Windows Azure is built on, folks? It's built on Windows Server. Windows Server 2012, 2012 R2 is at its core. And in a sense, when I think about our public cloud environment, when we offer those Azure resources for you, the consumer, to actually use and leverage, it's really just, what is Azure? It's a big, giant data center that you can connect to. But the nice thing about being consistent is that the operations that we have inside of our cloud and the things that we do with our servers actually make it easier for us to connect with and work on-premise. And that consistent platform really provides a lot of great things for us, not only when we build our applications or when we back up and control this, but Active Directory on-premise versus Active Directory in the cloud. It's just Active Directory, folks. It's a matter of how you connect those and work with that, and we'll see that in the demonstration later into this. Hybrid cloud approach really offer you the ability to optimize your IT resources. And really, folks, this depends on your needs. You're going to have certain data that is never, ever going to go near the cloud. You're going to have certain policies or regulations or certain secret formulas or whatnot. You have something in your premise that, you know what, I need to protect that. That's my company's lifeblood, or it's very important. But that's probably not everything inside your environment. But that's where you can keep that critical data on premise and then use the cloud to provide maybe scaling resources, compute resources, or storage resources inside of there. And really, at the end of the day, it also allows us to network this giant environment. It's also self-service. This is made to order cloud computing. We don't define how the cloud is for you. You define. And the great thing about, because we're consistent with the operating system levels and how we connect to this, you determine. This is your made-to-order cloud. We're not going to force you all up into a public environment like some of our competitors do. We're not going to force you just into a pure virtualization environment like other competitors. We're going to let you make the choice of what makes sense for you and your organization. When you talk to anybody at Microsoft and you talk to people in the server environments, you're going to hear this phrase: we build our servers to be cloud first, or I like to say cloud friendly. And what does that mean? Our servers and our software, from our client software in Windows 8 to Server 2012 R2 to System Center, are all designed to be able to talk and work with the cloud. Does it mean you need them to have a great product? No. Windows Server 2012 by itself, folks, and 2012 R2 is fantastic. But when you start plugging in those cloud components, you start plugging in Azure, you get a lot of abilities that amplify that server so it can really do some demonic things. And really, this is what customers want. So you're going to hear the phrase from Brad. You're going to hear it from everybody inside of Microsoft. We're a cloud-first customer, but we're also customer-first, because customers are asking us to help solve these complex real-world problems. This is where the cloud really can help enable your data center and take it into that next generation and that next evolution of our technologies that we have. So that's that hybrid cloud that we have inside of our environments. So now let's take a look at why would you choose hybrid cloud, and what are some things that we need to look at when we see it. At the end of the day, at any cloud scenario, whether you're going to a pure cloud environment, or you're going to a hybrid environment, or you're going to a pure on-premise private cloud, why do you choose this? There's only two reasons, really, at the end of everything that we talk about today. You're either going to improve the bottom line. Either you're going to save money by leveraging the storage costs in the cloud, or be able to scale and provide abilities, or you're going to do things to help improve the strategy of your environments. I've seen customers be able to offload the works of their on-premise SAN into the cloud for a fraction of the cost of what the SANs cost them. Not that they got rid of that SAN, they might have repurposed it for something else, but leveraged it for, once again, that critical workload I keep on-premise and I do other things up in the cloud. Or improve strategy. What if you have a company that relies on data analysis, or maybe you have a certain workload and you have predictive type of bursting where you know maybe you're a retail outlet and you know what's going to happen Cyber Monday, right? Your strategy is, if people are going to come to your website, you don't want to have them get the 500 server not found error, right? We want to be able to handle those types of things. Or maybe, like I mentioned earlier, you were mentioned on Oprah, and how do you fix those types of things? So when you look at the reasons to use the cloud, and even the reason to use hybrid clouding, it's really two things: to help you save money or improve the company that you couldn't do otherwise. When we think about this, there are three common scenarios that we're seeing at Microsoft that allow people to use the cloud. First, they might actually use it as an application tier. And when you think about this, what do I mean by that? Well, think about a traditional web application. It's going to have the web front end. It's going to have some kind of middle tier for communication, maybe business rules or analytics inside of it. Then you're going to have a back end for storage. And this might be your database. Might be SQL, might be Oracle, might be something on the back end to store that data. Well, one of the common scenarios that we see customers with hybrid is, you know what, I don't want to stand up 100 web servers. I want to keep the data on premise, but I'm going to use Azure as my application tier for my web front end. Or alternatively, I'm going to use Azure as the SQL backend for my application, for whatever that purpose might be. So we can look at Azure as it can provide not the entire tier. Now, could it do the entire tier? Absolutely. But from our environments, it doesn't have to do that. The other most common scenario, and this one's kind of a natural, hits it out of the ballpark when you think about Windows Azure, is disaster recovery. Imagine when you start saving and working with things, and what if your database happens to be up inside of Azure? What's the great thing about this? Well, what if something really bad happened to your on-premise data center and you couldn't get to the data? Where's the data? In the cloud. Now, I know a lot of you, and I'm going to simplify this down to a scenario that probably some of you have done before. How many of you have ever had to redo your phone because maybe the phone broke and you got a brand new phone? And today, with today's technology, and especially with the Windows phones, because I've had this, I've had my phone attack cement, and usually the cement wins over my phone. But where was all my data? It was locked away in the cloud. Was I upset I lost my phone? Sure. But I didn't lose the data. I didn't lose those family photos or the things I took. If you take that into a business scenario, that's what Azure provides for you. It provides kind of an instant disaster recovery environment. So we're going to have your data when it's there. The other one, and the most common scenario that we see a lot of our customers is doing, just simply backup. And that ties in with disaster recovery, but just daily backups. How much storage do you need, and how much storage do you have to purchase for your on-premise environments? Well, imagine the ability just to back up to the cloud and be able to integrate that in with our Windows Server 2012 and 2012 R2 environments. These are scenarios that we're seeing all the time. So being able to back up directly to the cloud is just one of the more common things, and one we'll take a look at today inside the demonstrations. So what are some of the components of a hybrid cloud? And in later presentations, you're going to go into more details, but here, just an overview, there's 4 of them. And notice the first one, and it's not first by mistake, folks. Windows Server 2012 R2 is the foundation. It is the center of our hybrid cloud environment. Remember what I mentioned earlier. Not only is it our on-premise server, but it has those cloud-friendly, cloud-first kind of design principles baked into its DNA so that when you want to connect to the platform of Windows Azure, it just works. It just knows how to talk and work with the cloud, especially once we start setting up the network for them to make them friendly. But that's the foundation. The other 3 that are here, Windows Azure, System Center 2012 R2, and the Windows Azure Pack simply will amplify what 2012 can do for you. Windows Azure, as you know, is our public cloud offering. We offer things in Windows Azure from platform as a services, let your developers just write to a certain application, to infrastructure as services, whereas from an IT perspective, we get to stand up our own servers, we get to configure our own servers, and we get connect those servers down to our infrastructure environment. And really, what is Azure built on? It's built on Windows DNA. We have System Center 2012 for all those management, configuration, those maintenance kind of things that we want to do in the cloud. Being able to monitor our cloud services is just as important as being able to monitor our on-premise resources. Now, how cool is System Center? Fundamentally, it doesn't really care where that server is. It's going to monitor that. Once we load agents on those servers, they might be in the cloud or they might be on-premise. System Center really doesn't care. Although we do have dedicated management packs for Windows Azure, it provides us the ability to do this. And then we have the Windows Azure Pack. This one's actually really exciting, and this is an on-premise type of tool. But a lot of customers, when they started dipping their toes in with our Windows Azure infrastructure services, they really liked our online portal. Well, the Azure Pack essentially is that. It's our Windows Azure online portal that you can actually present and give to your own environment. What does this enable? It's not the full Azure. I mean, we don't give you 100,000 servers in a 400,000 square foot facility, but what we do is we give you that software front-end portal, which you'll see in just a minute if you've never seen it, for your on-premise environment, which provides the ability for you to offer your business self-service design and self-service into your actual private cloud infrastructure. So you can get kind of Azure-like with your on-premise data center. Now understand this, that when we take a look at hybrid clouds, a lot of people think that a private cloud has to mean all my resources are on-premise, and generally a private cloud isn't a what, it's really how we do things. It's a process automation. It's how we approach, how do we provide resources to the rest of the business so they can be successful. What it doesn't say, though, is that my private cloud can't include resources that might be outside of the actual premise, might have storage. So when we think about this, the Azure Pack just helps provide that self-service environment that we can work at and use. So how do we connect to the hybrid cloud? Well, there's actually a couple of really easy ways to connect. And they actually solve kind of 2 different problems. The first one is probably the most common one. And if you want to connect your on-premise data center to the Azure data center, you'll create what is known as a site-to-site IPsec VPN tunnel, or just a site-to-site connection. And what this essentially does, it creates a network inside of Azure where we can actually plug in our environments, where we have to have a router that supports this. So we do require a piece of hardware on-premise that supports the IPsec VPN tunnel, which, by the way, folks, there's a list up on our websites that shows you all the routers that are out there, but most modern-day routers will have this component built in. It's just a matter of you configuring it and turning on the actual router. But once that connection is there, once we have that environment, we are now connected to our Azure environment. We're now connected, and we can pass traffic. And if you think about this graphic for a moment, notice I have Active Directory and DNS on-premise, but I also have Active Directory and DNS up in the cloud. What does that mean? What did I just provide my Active Directory environment? First off, people that log on to your network, they're going to log on to on-premise. But what if that on-premise AD is not available? Then where will they be able to go? To the Active Directory in the cloud. And how does it work? It works just like our regular Active Directory. How do you install it? Just like you install your on-premise AD. So from that standpoint, we don't really care where those servers are, but they provide that additional layer of protection. So from a disaster recovery standpoint, I essentially have that Active Directory environment up in the cloud forest via a simple IPsec tunnel. And I'll show you where this is configured in just a minute when we hop into the demo. But imagine that. It's that simple to connect my on-premise network to the Azure network, and I can get all kinds of hybrid facilities